Hello everyone, and welcome back to another video in Raid Shadow Legends. Today is the start of a new tournament, and we also got the new Veiled champions that they were teasing for a while now, as well as I'll be pulling some ancient shards at the end of the video. Due to this 2 times ancient shard chances of pulling a legendary or epic champion. Usually the chances, or whenever they do these types of things, they only double the legendary chances, but we also got a doubled epic, so that's kind of nice, and there's obviously some epics that I would like if I could pull some. But 20 ancient shards I'll be pulling at the end of the video because I like it when they do these events. It kind of almost feels like they're doubling the effectiveness of your ancient shards, so I like that. But the first thing we'll go over is the champion chase tournament that started today. It's a 3-day tournament, and as you can see, there is already a lot of people, most likely due to the double chances for ancient shards, but there's a lot of people that are getting high points in this event. The rewards that you get, no matter what, are not that great. You just got energy refills, 200 energy, a 1-day, it says not enough points, but this is a 1-day double XP booster, and then some gems, and of course a little bit of silver. We got some rare skill tomes, 1 or 2, a 3-star chicken, a 4-star chicken, and then you start getting some relentless gear, which really tournaments appear to be the only way to get this gear. But this is 5-star rare gear, 2 of them, 2 5-star epic gear, an epic skill tome, 4 5-star rare gear, 4 5-star epic gear, and 6 epic relentless gear if you somehow can make it to number 1. The point system, you can get them from summoning shards at the portal. Fuse them at the portal. If you have the Rosin Scarhide fusion, or want to do one of the other 2, Broadmaw or Relic Keeper, they count towards this champion chase event. So if, unlike me, if you would have waited a little bit longer to do Rosin Scarhide, you could have gotten a legendary point-wise for this tournament, which is kind of nice for you. Sucks for people who have already done them, but that's just the way it goes sometimes. You can purchase from the market, you can get drops from campaign, you can receive them as reward from progress missions, which I think is just the Arbiter. Receive them as daily login rewards, which we won't get to them if you've been doing your everyday, if you've been keeping up every day with login rewards. We won't get to Dark Aethel by the time this event is done, but if you're lagging behind and you're on, I don't remember what the second guy was off the top of my head, but if you're lagging behind, you could get him and he'll count towards your points. Receive them from events or tournaments. At the moment, there's no prizes of champions for tournaments or events, so this probably won't come into play, but it's there. If you get any of the Force, Magic, or Spirit affinity champions, you'll get 1 point for common, 1 point for uncommon, 10 for rare, 250 for epic, and 500 for legendary, which might be why some people have so many points already, is if they got a legendary or 2 out of this, they get a lot of points. And void champions are worth more points. If you're pulling your void shards, you get 50 for rare, 350 for epic, and 650 for legendary. Most of this other text here is really not anything new. We're in groups, and we get milestone rewards and ranking rewards. The relentless gear is obviously could be pretty good if you get some good rolls on it, but that's hard to do, and that's really all you're working for towards this champion chase tournament. So personally, if the double chances weren't here, I wouldn't be pulling a single shard for this tournament. I don't care about this. It's better to save your shards for summon rush events, but that double chance for legendary and epics has me pulling my ancient shards today. And also what dropped today, unfortunately for the champion pool, is these new Veil champions. Most of them really don't add a whole lot, because if you've seen before, it doesn't really seem like these Veil buffs are really going to be all that great. But we'll go quickly over the new champions and see about their abilities and whatnot. This first guy is Vizier Oblis, I think. I'm not sure. He can increase the Oh, that's right. I already took a glance at all these guys, but this guy was pretty nice because he has 3 hits, and each hit has a 35%, 50 if you add the skill tomes, of increasing the duration of all debuffs for 1 turn. Meaning if you get lucky, you're increasing the debuffs by 3 turns on a single hit. This guy on a clan boss with counterattack, he'll probably keep all debuffs on him forever. He has a 50% chance of placing block buffs, 50% decrease attack, and 100% heal reduction. I guess that's there. Most of the decrease attack is pretty nice. I don't really use block heal, so not sure on the effectiveness of that. But this is a new effect. It's not a buff, but a new effect that I don't think anybody else has. But applies a debuff spread effect, taking 2 random debuffs from the target, which is just 1 enemy, and places them on all enemies. So say this guy attacks only 1 enemy, places block buffs, decrease attack, and heal reduction. Then you use this and does a debuff spread and places it on everyone. And technically anything else that that guy may have. But it is 2 random debuffs, not all the debuffs, so there's that. And places a perfect veil on this champion for 3 turns if the target is under 2 or more debuffs. So also has to be under at least 2 debuffs or he won't get his perfect veil. He places a perfect veil buff on himself for 2 turns at the start of each round and increases attack in dungeons by 34%. The next champion is part of the High Elves. She's a legendary as well, Yannica. She's an attack champion. Attacks 1 enemy, then attacks another random enemy, and has each hit has a chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns. Has a 75% chance of placing a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns if the attack is critical. Don't really like that. Usually when attacks are critical, especially for a buff, it's 100% chance. I'm not actually sure if we have percentage chances of placing buffs. I imagine we do, but that's just odd to me. And then decreases max HP by 25% of the damage inflicted. And increases spirit ally attack in all battles by 36%. Next guy is a demon spawn. Where is he? This guy. Force champion. Candraphon. Places an extra hit if the target is under increase attack buff. So you don't really have control over that. Grants an extra turn and resets the cooldown of On the Hunt skill if this attack kills the enemy. On the Hunt places a perfect veil buff and a 50% increase attack buff on this champion for 2 turns. And damage increases by 40% while attacking under the veil or perfect veil buff. Which is pretty nice, which means you really want to keep this On the Hunt going as much as possible, so he can keep his extra damage up. One thing I'll mention before, perfect veil is you can't be targeted, but you will still be attacked by AoE attacks, which is really why most of these guys with the perfect veil and veil buffs are not that great, because especially in arena and other places, we use a lot of AoE attacks. So the veils don't do anything for you under those type of attacks, so that's why these aren't that great. But there is one champion that's kind of interesting near the end of the list that we'll be going over. But next is the Mistress of the Hymns in the Sacred Order. She's a support champion that heals allies with the lowest HP by 15% of her damage inflicted. Places a continuous heal buff on 2 allies with the lowest HP for 2 turns if the attack is critical. And revives 2 random allies with 50% of their HP. And places a veil buff on them for 1 turn. Which is kind of nice. It makes them unattackable or untargetable for a single turn while they're kind of low on HP, assuming that you can get them in higher HP, or that you're not going to get attacked by an AoE attack. Next is in Bannerlords. Seneschal is a defense champion that has a 30% chance of placing a leech debuff for 2 turns, places perfect veil buff and a 15% continuous heal buff on an ally for 2 turns, and places a counterattack buff on this champion for 2 turns, while also having a 60% chance of placing a provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. Looks like this is not actually an attack, so he's just provoking. Next is someone from Undead Hordes. There she is. The Corpse Collector is a support champion. Has a 40% chance of placing Leech debuff for 2 turns, 75% chance of 100% heal reduction debuff, and 50% decrease of accuracy for 2 turns. And each hit 3 times has a 75% chance of a 5% poison debuff for 2 turns, and places a veil buff on this champion for 1 turn. Really just protecting her for a turn if there's no AoE attacks. Infernal Baroness from the Demon Spawn is a defense champion that heals the ally with the lowest HP by 5% of the damage inflicted, has a 50% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff on all enemies for 2 turns, and places a perfect veil buff on an ally for 3 turns. Pretty strong buff, it being 3 turns at least. Still susceptible for AoE attacks. Knight Renovant, the Necro Hunter, is an attack champion that can hit each hit has a 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense for 2 turns. Attacks 1 enemy and has a 50% chance of attacking all enemies with an extra hit. Interesting. Kind of like, what's her name? I'm drawing a blank. I have to go check because it's bothering me. Elhain. Although his chance is only, or he only has a 50% chance of doing the extra hit. And places a perfect veil buff on this champion for 2 turns if the attack is critical. Obviously, all these guys are about that veil buff. Now we're on to the rare champions. In Barbarians, there it is. There she is. The Hill Nomad is a support champion that has a 50% chance of placing 25% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns, which is nice for clan boss. Another, well, actually no, this is only a 25% decrease attack, but still, if it's better than nothing if you don't have anything already. Places a 7.5% continuous heal buff on an ally for 2 turns, and places a veil buff on an ally for 1 turn, and has a 25% increase attack for 2 turns. Also places a shield buff on this champion equal to 20% of their max HP for 2 turns. And last but not least, the most interesting of the new champions is Steadfast Marshal. Only a, oh, interesting little pop-up there. I don't know what that was for. Steadfast Marshal is a Void champion, is a rare HP champion, has a 50% chance of placing Provoke on his A1 for 1 turn if the target's max HP is lower than this champion, so you really want to buff up his HP. Places a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns. It grants an extra turn. So you're going to want to use this, and then you'll want to use this. Places a veil buff on all allies except this champion for 2 turns. Effectively placing a provoke, but the provoke, they can still use any skill that they want. So it's unique in the fact that this is the only AoE veil buff, and we don't have a perfect veil version yet, but it applies to every champion except for this guy. Once again, effectively making it kind of like a provoke, but they're all susceptible to AoE attacks still, unfortunately. But you can decrease this to a 3-turn cooldown, and decrease this to a 3-turn cooldown, so you can have the veils up for a little while, assuming that the other champions don't take off the veil by attacking someone. And now that we've gone over everything that has come out today, we can finally do the Ancient Shard summons. And I like to do it one at a time with the camera turned off, just so that we can get the good view of the champions. And let's see if we can get anything nice. Starting off with a rare. Nothing special there. Next is an epic. We got Dark Aethel. I think this is new to me, and we'll be getting her for free soon, so not crazy great, but still, an epic is better than a rare, so that's nice. Next is another rare. We got the Preserver, no, Hospital. And let's see what we get this time. Next is, let's see, a legendary. Let's see, we got Errol. All right, let's see what he can do. A legendary attack champion that attacks one enemy and has a 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 50% chance to ignore defense. Removes all buffs from a target enemy, then attacks the target, or steals all buffs from the target enemy, then attacks the target. And increases ally attack in dungeons by 35%. His reviews, I don't know much about him. His reviews aren't that great, so we'll just have to see. But a legendary is a legendary, and this is very exciting. Another legendary champion. He's a legendary HP champion. Attacks one enemy, has a 60% chance of placing a 100% heal reduction. Attacks all enemies 2 times, places a block buff debuff for 2 turns and targets on the targets under heal reduction debuffs. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing block buffs debuff for 2 turns against targets that are not under heal reduction debuffs. Kind of a long one there. Fiery Rage has a 10% chance to unlock a secret skill Peril for 1 turn, and Ascended can do the same thing and also has a 20% chance of filling this champion's turn meter by 25% when attacked. And the hidden skill Peril attacks one enemy 2 times and will ignore shield and block damage buffs as well as defense, and enemies killed by this skill cannot be revived. And increases ally speed in all battles by 24%. His reviews are actually pretty decent, but a second legendary champion out of Ancient Shards today, I am over the moon. Even though these aren't the ones I'm specifically looking for, I'm sure I can find some use for them. Well, that's it for this video. I, of course, got the Legendary Ascension packs that you get when you summon a Legendary Champion. But, oh, I didn't mean to go there. Summoning 2 Legendary Champions, Errol and Mortu-Macaab, is incredibly crazy. I did want to try to get, of course, Skull Crusher or, what's her name, Martyr or something like that that can do the AoE counterattack, but let's see where I'm at. I'm currently in 6th place because of 2 legendary champions, and that if I stay here, which I probably won't, I'll get 2 rare relentless artifacts, and I got some rewards to claim. But I'm speechless, and I guess that'll be the end of this video. Thanks for watching, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.